It's been great. I'm not going to say I was skeptical at first, but I didn't really know what to expect. I was simply going on the level of enthusiasm that Craig was exhibiting, and he strongly suggested that I try it out, and there's no harm in trying, so I did, and it was, from the first meeting, it was excellent, and it's in fact gotten better since then. It's a little bit like a reality TV show. You're following the stories of all the participants in your group, and you form both a professional bond but also a personal bond. And it's really interesting to watch their stories pan out, and it's extremely satisfying when you see them take a piece of advice that you offered up, act on it, and the result was a good one. So there's more substance to the stories now. As we go on, you can see the stories pan out. It's been great and continues to be great. I guess the mantra for our style of group, as opposed to the CEO group, is how do you exercise influence when you don't have complete control? And there are professional aspects to that, there are personal, emotional aspects. You as a sort of relatively high-powered decision maker, how do you deal with situations where you are strongly opinionated but you don't have final say, and how do you influence change? So that's been one of the goals. It's been useful. I think I was relatively good at that before joining the Alliance, but it's helped me discover a few new techniques, a few new subtleties in terms of how to manage a manager. One of my other main goals was how to manage my direct reports, and I've picked up some really good tips and tricks on how to do that. So those two have been excellent. There've been a number of peripheral benefits. You're probably coming to that question in a moment, but I'll jump the gun, because one of the best ones has been, there's a dynamic, and I'll describe the dynamic and then come back to the benefit. The dynamic is you always seem smarter to yourself when commenting on someone else's problem than when thinking through your own, because you think, oh, I've got this issue and there's all these smart people in the room, they can help me with mine, but you're dealing with theirs first and you offer up some advice, and it actually sounds intelligent and credible when you're offering up an opinion on someone else's problem. And what then happens is somehow you internalize that to realizing that my own opinion on my own issue is actually not bad. I'm getting validation for my opinion on their problem. So it gives you confidence to go with your instincts on your own problems, where you might otherwise think, well, maybe this isn't the right move, and that sort of thing. So it's been really good in that respect as well. It reaffirms that you have good instincts. It doesn't mean you're always right, but it means that more often than not, you're thinking about the problem in the correct paradigm. Craig had been in the Alliance for, I'm guessing, probably 6 or 8 months prior to recommending it to me. As I mentioned a moment ago, his level of enthusiasm was palpable throughout that period, and then he suggested to me that I join, because I think the Top Teams group only came into existence shortly before I joined. And the group has gone through a few, permutations is overstating it, but a few roster changes. There's a core group of 5 or 6 of us who've been there from the beginning, but some people have come and gone. But that's how I got in, essentially from a recommendation by Craig, and liking it from pretty much the first minute I got there. At a simplistic level, it's fairly easy. Is there two-way benefit? Will they get something out of being here, and will we get something out of them being here? In fact, today we had a scenario where a new person came along in their first meeting, and at the end of the meeting, our moderator asked her to leave the room so we could, I mean, it's a little secret society-like, but there's an element to that. So we could talk about whether she's a good fit, and we concluded that she wasn't. She's just too early stage. She has a startup, and she will probably benefit from this 6 or 8 months down the track, but just too early, specifically because there's not a lot that the group could get from her. So at the most basic level, there's got to be benefit for both parties, for everyone else in the group and for the participant. Okay. They're cross-functional, but most business problems have common themes to them. They're either personnel issues, they're process issues, and they have great insights even though they're not necessarily dealing with technical infrastructure, they're dealing with the same business problems. And they often come at it from a slightly tangential perspective, so there's a bit of a twist, and I like that twist. And conversely, it's good that they're not too directly competitive with what I do. In fact, we've had a couple of scenarios where I've had to veto new participants because it was a little close to the bone in terms of either industry or what their specific role is in their own company. So, and I'm probably overstating the callousness of the selection process. It's not that ruthless, but there is consideration given, and I like the fact that consideration is given to competitive tension, because you don't want any competitive tension. One of the primary goals of the group is to be able to speak freely. In fact, I'm convinced that you couldn't have a good meeting unless everyone feels free to open up about the true issue. Very good, very trusting, very open. And our facilitator, moderator, director, I don't know what the exact title is, has been excellent in fostering that in every meeting, reinforcing at the start and end of the meeting the confidentiality point. You want to know that what you say in that meeting room stays in that meeting room. So he's really helped that, and I think like any dynamic of its type, that grows over time as we've got to know each other and trust each other, not just in terms of keeping each other's confidence, but positively contributing ideas to help each other solve their issues. The trust factor has grown and people have opened up. Bob's excellent. Bob is, he's one of these, doesn't say too many words, but the words he says all count type of guys. He's clearly very experienced, and not just in industry generally, but in helping people get through their issues, helping extract what the real issue is. And sometimes he does that by being very blunt. If you comment during a section where he's asked for questions, he'll slap you down in a nice way and say, guys, this is question time, we'll come to comments in a minute. So he's very good at keeping the meeting on point, but then subtly steering you and it to the place where he knows it needs to be. So he uses a velvet glove rather than a big stick, but he's very good at making the meeting go where it needs to go. It's funny, to answer your direct question, no, but I mean that in a good way, because all my aha moments have come during the meeting, not after the meeting. So it's not that I've left the meeting and then had the aha moment. It's been literally during the course of the meeting. And then obviously once I left the meeting, you cogitate on that and it develops into a bigger idea or a fuller idea. But yeah, and there have been many aha moments that have come during the meetings. Yeah, there's a couple. One I've touched on, but I'll elaborate on, and that's the trust your instincts aha moment, because in fact, Bob invited us at the end of a session a couple of meetings ago to summarize any learnings from the meeting, and the one I summarized was, I always feel smarter commenting on someone else's problem than I do thinking about my own, but there isn't any reason that I'm smarter in their context than my own, so indirectly I'm drawing confidence from the fact that they've taken my advice, they've run with it, they've had some success. So the aha moment for me was, my instincts are actually pretty good. It doesn't mean you're always right, but take input. But you know what? For the most part, instincts are generally good. So that was an aha moment. And then there was an aha moment a couple of meetings ago where, again, Bob at the end of a meeting phrased it, and I'll butcher his phrasing a little bit, but you'll get the essence of it. And it was along the lines of, most people in this room are only one brave conversation away from getting what they want. And really, he was just encouraging everyone in that room to be brave, to be bold, because that's when stuff happens. And it's funny, the following meeting, half the room, without giving any detail away, half the room had been encouraged to have brave conversations of varying degrees in various contexts. And I don't think there was a single person there who regretted doing that. So those were two aha moments. True hardcore entrepreneurship. Most of the people in that room didn't start their own company, have never started their own company. I have, the company that Specialties acquired. And if anything, I take that boldness factor and ratchet it up a notch, because I'm always the guy saying, no, cut the cord, fire the guy, he's a bad influence in your team, you need to move on. that's one example. I quickly developed a reputation as the guy who said, "We'll just fire him, you need to move on." I would maintain that in each of those contexts I was right. But I'm kind of the guy who's always pushing the envelope a little bit. There are some really smart analytical people who view every issue through the correct process lens that they've neatly pigeonholed into certain templates, and that's very useful and very valuable, and I always get something out of hearing how they view the problem. But I'm more the guy who quickly interprets it and says, you have a real issue, it's not going to go away until you address the cause. Here's the cause, you need to have that brave conversation. So I think I bring an element of bravery. Despite its main value being professional, it's fun. And because often those two things don't go hand in hand, and a lot of people in our group, and in fact Craig as well, said it's not one of these, oh shit, I've got another meeting to go to meetings. It's one of the things each month that I most look forward to. So you'll get a lot out of it from a professional development point of view, and I think the sponsoring company will get a lot out of it because each person becomes a better executive. But also, it's really enjoyable. So if that was so implicit that it didn't come out, I felt the need to draw that out.